Yep. Well, that's exactly it. That's the problem that most targeted individuals or people who claim they're being targeted have, is the evidence to prove their statements, which is something that is extremely important. They need to be able to prove what they're claiming. I mean, that's just the way it works inside a courtroom or for any kind of, when you're telling a situation that's going on that people don't understand, it's something that makes sense to have some kind of evidence and make some kind of contact out there that this is happening. I know of one individual, his name is Brian Ronge, W-R-O-N-G-E. Quite a few years ago, he was implanted inside a prison in New York State. He was implanted. He managed to get x-rays and MRI at that time, and he went to go sue, for this activity taking place. After a roundabout, he managed to get a judge to order the implants removed, and when he went for a removal, it was impossible for him to do so. He had claimed that, and even the doctor, the medical people that were referred to his case, had approached the bench and said to the judge, listen, Judge, we can't remove these because we're being threatened by the FBI not to remove them. So obviously this program does not want this evidence out there, which would bring not only litigation, but also raise the question of, did MK Ultra really stop? I mean, is this a continuation of the MK Ultra program? The sub-project maybe 59, for example, which was one of the programs that used medical devices and techniques against unwitting citizens and the like. And we do know that, of course, you're aware of the Church Committee hearing, I'm sure. And there were no prosecutions then, were there?
And what interests me is people, question, I said, the military has developed these non-lethal weapons for the military to use. And I'd say, how do you test something like this? Do you have to test them? Do you have a willing subject? And, and the other thing I pointed out was I come across some data that there's probably applications for 100 and some patents to determine, or measure the effect of these, which means that these scientists or these engineers or something know that it's there, and they want to get a patent to measure the impact or the effect on it, and all the other issues that's surrounded by it. So
in other words, they can take citizens and make them research and development projects without their knowledge or without anyone believing their claim after it's already happened.
Yes, we know that our government has been guilty of atrocious attacks on our citizens in the past, and I think they're concerned, or like you said, afraid now that this will become public of what they've been doing secretly, and that's what they want to keep undercover, because the American people would lose even more faith in their federal government if they would find out what something like this has been going on.
Let me ask you something as a professional and a politician. What do you think would really happen now after MK Ultra was brought out in the Church Committee hearings and there really were no prosecutions? Would that really make the government liable now as direct criminals to the crimes that are still remaining taking place if it should manage to get past the State Secrets Act and the Patriot Act?
They should be obviously liable for that. You try and go back on how many times has somebody sued the government and been successful, but then the Patriot Act is a direct violation of our rights and freedoms, and I think more and more people realize the abuse that they've been able to take place with that. I've always said, the Patriot Act, or if they want to eavesdrop on a legitimate suspected terrorist, that one individual, for the security of our country, if they have solid evidence that they need to watch, or monitor, listen in, or actually check his bank record, they should do it. But the problem is, as you probably know, if they got an individual, they target the entire neighborhood or whoever it is, and they're always supposed to go back and get a search warrant to back it up. And they've admitted in the 100, 200 times that they never went back and followed up with the proper paperwork when they were eavesdropping on the average citizen. citizen out there just because they happen to be in the vicinity of the individuals or the group that they were watching. So,
this also involves in the past the NSL letters, right? The national security documents, which the FBI was found guilty of not maintaining correctly before the Patriot Act. They were blanketly surveilling citizens and wiretapping phones without any court orders, without anything. So they were doing it before the Patriot Act was passed, and so now that the Patriot Act is, they seem to get themselves out of that, that legal scenario by incorporating like the Patriot Act and the Protect America Act and some of the other legislation that has been passed. Well, let's get to some of the other House representatives and senators that you may know. You don't have to mention any names here, but I'm just curious as a percentage here, because people talk about one world global government, and a lot of people mention that the reasons why a lot of these activities they believe is taking place is because of a one world global government, the collapse of our economy, the wars that are taking place around the world. Do you believe in the one world global government theory? Do you think that is taking place?
If you had asked me that question, 6, 8, 10 years ago, I would have said you're smoking something. But as I get more involved in this and study more of this and come across this and follow individuals like Ron Paul and a few others, I think there's credible evidence that we are Trilateral Commission. We have some individuals that are strongly intent on moving in that direction. We talk about the collapse of our currency, going to a one-world currency. That's North American Union. I fought against it a couple of years ago because you've seen evidence that they want to go to 5 or 6, European Union, the North American Union. I think there was the African Union, a couple others. You go that direction, and then you get the heads of those, and pretty soon you've only got 4 or 5 people controlling everything. And so
in other words, they're put in place like barons or kings to oversee the land for this entity. I'm curious because I heard that Muammar Gaddafi is the president of the African Union. Do you know if that's correct or not?
I don't know. I've just
I just thought maybe it.
I've not heard it. This even on this on lethal weapons and this electronic harassment. People call me about some of this stuff. I kind of have to apologize. I've only got a limited amount of time to devote to some of these issues because we have the other work. I'm trying to keep and read up on what I can, but then, primarily right now I have to work with our state government here in Missouri, but with all the other information. And I get just stacks of, people send me information, documentation